Welcome to Guitar Villains. I'm your host, Tyler Larson. Why guitar villains, you ask? Because villains are cooler than heroes. It's just a fact. This is a podcast by guitar players for guitar players, and over the course of this series, we'll speak with some of the most creative and innovative minds in the guitar community, find out what makes them tick, and how we can become better guitar players ourselves. Thank you for watching the video podcast here on YouTube, and you can also listen to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Today's guitar villain is Tommy Emmanuel, one of the most musical guitar players you'll ever hear and one of the best storytellers I know. Tommy has been dropping the jaws of audiences for decades with his impeccable acoustic guitar playing that sounds more like an entire band than just one person. With flawless rhythm, unreal technique, and a way of playing that just makes you laugh. Tommy's musicianship is captivating in a way that will inspire you to pick up your guitar or maybe just set it down and watch. Tommy's way of explaining things and his storytelling ability is another testament to his world-class talent, so you may find yourself coming back to this one over and over on this episode of Guitar Villains. Welcome to Guitar Villains, the show where we deconstruct and decode the guitar. And Tommy, I just want to let you know that you've done a lot of amazing things in your career, but there's one thing you were able to do that maybe nobody else in the world could.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Basically, you made John Petrucci, the immortal lord of the electric guitar and maybe one of the strongest men I know, you made him cry.
Yeah, that was at New York Town Hall. I remember it well. John was in the front row with his wife, and she told me that he cried several times, and she's been married to him for 28 years or something, and she said, I've never seen him cry, ever. So,
it's quite a feat there. And the only reason I know that is he was on the show, and he told me that little story. And I mentioned that you would be on the show, and he was like, "Tell Tommy I love him, say hi." And
oh, absolutely,
yeah. So that
he's a great guy. You know, he came to Australia. I think it was for Ibanez, and it was a long time ago. It was about 1993, and I think he was playing with Alice Cooper in those days. And anyway, so I get a call from my friend. A retailer guy who was putting on a clinic, a workshop with John Petrucci, and he asked me. He said, are you free?" I said, "Yeah, I'm free tonight." He said, "Could you come down and be in the audience, you know, just to give us a little excitement and maybe ask some questions?" And I'll never forget it. John came out, and he played 2 songs in a row with some backing tracks. And he played so beautifully, real creamy distortion. And I love what he played and how he sounded. And then he goes, "Anybody got a cigarette?" And then he bummed a cigarette or someone, lit it. And he goes like this. He goes, "Ask me some questions."
That's pretty cool.
I cracked up laughing. I thought, man, what a way to start a workshop, you know.
Yeah.
Ask me questions.
That might be the best way. And we want to mention there's a little bit of fall allergies in the air. We actually both live in Nashville. I don't know if you knew that. I'm here in Nashville, and I got some fall allergies. You got, so you're not sick. You're trooping through this interview. But I wanted to let people know you have like kind of a raspy, debonair voice going on. Perfect for podcast.
Oh, God. Yeah, I just answered a whole bunch of questions for some other things, and I sounded like I was on death's door, you know. Yeah. I'm in my deathbed, but I feel great, you know. It's a good temperature today. Yeah. And I'm happy to be speaking with you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we do things a little bit differently on this show. We're going to play some games. I'm going to try to get to the bottom of what makes you tick as a musician, and hopefully you'll have a great time and next time you're playing out in Nashville, I'd love to come see you. So this show is called Guitar Villains because I think villains are cooler than heroes. I've always found their characters are deeper and more memorable.
Totally.
So the first thing I want to ask you is, out of all the movie or comic book villains out there, would you say you identify with any one villain the most? And that could be something as simple as appearance or something as nuanced as a character trait.
Well,
I can give you my answer first, and
okay, let me hear yours.
And then you can either agree or give me your answer. I think you are like Renee Belloc, who is the main antagonist from Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Are you familiar with that character?
Absolutely. Da, 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 da.
He's highly intelligent. He possesses a great many treasured artifacts, and he's a world traveler. And that's just like you. I think you're highly intelligent, not just as a musician, but as a person. And you have some unbelievably cool guitars, I'm sure, some treasured guitars. Yeah. And
I have some treasures.
I think you've probably traveled the world 10 times over, and you've got a pretty suave and cool persona, I think, like Belloc does. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I would say I relate to Gene Hackman in Superman.
Oh, good one.
He was the bad guy, and he was full of great humor. He was totally evil, but full of humor. And even when he got beaten, he was still cool, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And I think I'm a big Gene Hackman fan. I thought he was incredible in the movie Mississippi Burning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's an amazing actor. And you go right back to the late 60s to Bonnie and Clyde. He played Clyde's brother. And he was brilliant in that too. Gene Hackman is a great actor.
He's amazing. I loved him in Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
So first things first, I have a couple softball lobs for you. I call this segment Burning Questions. So these are rapid fire questions that if you were to conduct a live masterclass where anyone could ask you questions about anything they want regarding music, these are questions they would ask.
Yeah.
What gauge pick do you use?
It's about, let me have a look. It's pretty heavy. It's, here's my pick. 1.5 millimeters.
Wow. Is that a thumb pick or a regular one?
That's one of my signature. If I dig in my pocket, this is what I have.
Oh, you got a lot of picks in there.
Yeah, I always have lots of picks. But this is my signature one.
Great. Oh, that's an interesting shape there. It's like kind of round almost.
Yeah. It's based on David Grisman's mandolin pick.
Delightful. All right.
Yeah.
What gauge strings do you use?
12 to 54 and 13 to 56. Depends on, like, one of my guitars, I tune down a whole step, and sometimes down to drop C. So I use big strings on that 13 to 56. But on my other two guitars, I travel with three guitars on the road. But the two of them are 12 to 54, and I use Martin strings, some Diodario strings, and sometimes Ernie Ball's new string called a Paradigm. That's a great string, best string they've ever made.
Yeah, the Unbreakable one. What is your #1 guitar?
It's made in Australia, and it's called a TE Personal. And so it was handmade. All three of my guitars that I tour with were made in the custom shop made by a man named Andy Allen. And he knows what I like, and he's always full of surprises. He gave me this guitar that I've been using lately, the last 6 years or something, and it's thinner in the body. It has a smaller sound hole than the other ones. But it's much bigger and louder, you know. On my new album, if you listen to this, like the very first song, it's a song called A Song for a Rainy Morning. The guitar sounds so beautiful and says, it does everything I'm looking for.
I was just listening to that song before we were chatting because it's raining here a little bit.
All right.
So this segment is actually, I typically have electric guitar players on here, but I'm still going to throw this one at you. What's your favorite guitar amp?
Old Fenders.
Okay.
I like Fender amps.
Old Fender. What's your favorite guitar pedal?
I guess I've got some homemade distortion units which help you to get a big distortion sound at a lower volume. And they're made by a friend of mine in Los Angeles. And that's all he does. He makes pedals. He's retired from his work. Mm-hmm. And I think I have 3 of his pedals. And they're so good. Doesn't sound like you're using a pedal. It just sounds like the amp's really cranking.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good quality in a distortion pedal for sure.
Yeah.
So the first big question I want to ask you is something that really intrigued me when I was doing my homework for this episode. You once said that half of Jimi Hendrix's albums were slightly out of tune, yet we only noticed it when Stevie Ray Vaughan came along and covered Hendrix and he was in tune. And that we realized like the mojo and feeling in Hendrix's music, which as a huge Hendrix fan, it was like such a brilliant analysis and a revelation to me. Can you talk a little bit more about how like imperfections are actually what can project people to the place they're meant to arrive musically?
Yeah. Well, everybody has their own way of bringing the mojo out. And, when I hear Stevie Ray Vaughan, I hear that he's so in tune. When I listen to Chet Atkins, I hear tuning perfection. Eric Clapton, tuning perfection. The guys are so good. But yet there are some people, like for instance, James Taylor, as a singer, is right in the middle of the note. He is such a perfect singer, like Stevie Wonder, people like that. But then you go to a guy like Rod Stewart, who sings a fraction sharp the whole time, but there's something about that that's so good and feels great. And you've got to really listen, but everything is a fraction sharp, and it's just how he is. And that's his sound. I can hear the vocal and you think, wow, it's really in tune. But then you keep listening and you'll hear it's slightly above.
Do you think
it's his sound? The same thing with Michael McDonald. He's a great singer and a piano player. He never just leaves a note like that. He always tails off. Or da 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 da. He'll sing a note and it falls away. And
like a slur of some kind.
Yeah, everybody has their little ways of doing things.
Do you think that that's something that you purposefully develop, or how would you go about honing something like that?
I think it just becomes part of your sound that you're used to. I'm used to being in tune. I hate it when even the slightest bit out. My whole world is off center until I get it perfectly in tune. And so, I'm really sensitive to tuning. And the times that I've had to play where there was nowhere in the song that I could get to, a machine had to turn, in the middle of a phrase or something. It drives me crazy. I just got to get to the end and then fix it,
You almost maybe like alter a phrase that you're playing so you can make a little space for the tune.
Yeah, maybe my string's gone sharp, and I'll try to give it a tug while I'm playing.
Oh,
things like that. And if it's flat, then I'll push it up with the left hand. Chet Atkins had a Brazilian guitar called Del Vecchio, which was a resonator guitar, and the intonation was pretty funky. And I saw him push that thing into tune every time he played it. It sounded perfect.
Jeez.
But I knew it wasn't exactly in tune, but he made it that way.
That's so hard to do. I saw Steve Vai broke a string on a Floyd Rose guitar, which, of course, everything goes insane. And he was doing just what you're saying. He would be bending a note and then using the whammy bar to like he was holding the whammy bar in a certain position so that the strings became, the tension was correct. And
he's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a guy.
So now I want to play a game called Name Those Notes. The concept is pretty simple. I'm going to play you a sequence of guitar notes from songs and music that you have recorded over the years. And you have to tell me what song these notes come from. So you're going to see how well you know your catalog and how well you can recognize your guitar playing. It'll spur some conversation about the songs too. And everyone I've played this little game with so far has had a similar reaction to yours, which is like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? But I think you might surprise yourself. So we're going to start with something easy that I think you'll get, and things will get progressively more difficult. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Here is the first bit of notes.
Ruby's Eyes.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
So this song, it feels like a film score, like some kind of secret agent is chasing after the antagonist. I don't know why it gives me that feeling, like something in the harmony. Obviously, it's not like an aggressive song, but there's a mystique about it. Can you talk a little bit about this tune?
I watched a James Bond movie called Moonraker, and it had one of those chords that's in that song. I found that chord, and I loved it. It sounded great. And I wrote the song because of that. And the next day, I was in the lounge at the international airport in Sydney, ready to fly to Singapore. And I had my eyes closed, and I was playing that song. All of a sudden, I heard a little voice singing along with me, and I opened my eyes, and there was this beautiful little girl, about 3, maybe 4 at the most, if that. And she was dancing from side to side, and she was singing that melody with me. And of course, the first thing I did was look around for her parents, because I'm a parent too.
Yeah.
And I saw them standing over there, and they waved to me, and they pointed to her, and she's okay. So I said, well, what's your name? And she said, Ruby. And I thought, Ruby, I've just written you a song. And that's where I came up with the title. And I still am in touch with Ruby. She's 14 or something now, 15.
Wow, that's a beautiful little story. I think I know the chord because this is a really strange.
It's a B with a G in it.
This is a really strange thing because you said James Bond. I have the sound effects that you're hearing. They're all labeled, and I have this one written as 007 Ruby's Eyes chord, and it's this last chord here.
That's it.
That's the chord. I was like, that feels like I'm in a secret agent movie. So we got another group of notes. You ready?
Yep. That's back on terra firma, the bridge part.
Yes, indeed. Do you remember where that particular performance was?
Yeah, it was at the Olympic Games in 2000 in Sydney. And you know what? Once I found out that my brother and I were going to be on that show, I said, I chose the song Back on Terra Firma. And I went to Nashville and I mastered it and made it sound big and the backing track. Because my brother and I were going to play live over the top, which we did with Line 6 pods. That's what we used. And so I went and mastered it, got it down to 2 minutes and 46 seconds, which is what every artist was allotted. Huh. And I had the master with me. I was about to fly Nashville to LA to Sydney. And I got out to Nashville airport with the master in my jacket pocket. And I'm standing in line to get on the plane. And I thought, this guy standing in front of me with long blonde hair. I tapped on his shoulder and he turned around. And it was John Jorgensen. And he was going back to LA. And so we ended up sitting side by side. And when we got on the plane, I said to him, John, Phil and I are going to play on the closing ceremony of the Olympic Games, and we're going to play back on terra firma. And he burst into tears. He cried, and he was so thrilled because he wrote the song.
Right. Jeez.
And it was so appropriate for that event.
Yeah, how serendipitous to run into him.
How about that?
And I don't know if you know this, 2.85 billion viewers were watching you.
Pretty, yeah, nothing to get nervous about.
You didn't look nervous. You looked like you always look.
No, we're having a good time.
Yeah, great. Cool story. Let's move on to the next group of notes.
Drive time.
Nice. They're getting a little harder. You're not wavering. I love this little turnaround in this song. It gives the song like it's a center for people to cling to. Do you ever envision your songs as like little adventures? Like when I listen to your music, I find as a listener, I'm always on like this little ride, but there's like a pull off from the highway on the same pit stop that I'm used to kind of getting off on, which is really hard to do instrumentally to keep your listener in that comfort zone.
Well, I started writing that song because I was walking around the house playing that little thing, E, C sharp minor, F sharp minor, back to B, E, yeah, so when I was writing it, I had been listening to a lot of James Taylor and Stevie Wonder, and they inspired me so much. They still do. You know, there's not a day goes by that I don't listen to at least a couple of James Taylor songs. His writing has inspired me so much. The same with Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's my wife's favorite music. Her favorite in her whole side of the family. Really, it's a favorite because they're from Carolina, and they're going back to Carolina is like their anthem.
Yeah, exactly.
Today's episode of Guitar Villains is brought to you by Guitar Super System. Are you tired of YouTube ads telling you that YouTube guitar lessons suck? Me too. I don't know about you, but somebody setting an acoustic guitar on fire or teaching crappy cover songs in front of a musty black curtain feels a little disingenuous to me. I'll get straight to the point. Join tens of thousands of other guitar players and visit GuitarSupersystem.com to join the most popular independent guitar learning platform on the internet. If you're a beginner, there's an entire curriculum called the Beginner's Corner just for you. If you're an expert, the music theory and technique curriculums reach the highest levels of mastery and are based on industry standard learning methods I've used since graduating Berklee College of Music. If you're somewhere in the middle, you're actually the perfect candidate. The Choose Your Destiny approach allows you to cater your learning experience to exactly what you want to accomplish, whether that's improving your improvising, ear training, learning new techniques, songwriting, and more. You'll also have access to private live streams, lesson comments, and a community forum for feedback, as well as exclusive giveaways and new curriculum releases. The best part is everything that I just mentioned is included in one monthly subscription, and you can cancel anytime, or, like a lot of people do, upgrade your subscription to a yearly pass. Of course, you can also just learn guitar right on YouTube for free, because YouTube guitar lessons don't suck if you know where to look. So check out GuitarSupersystem.com. Now, back to Guitar Villains. All right, we got two more little groups of notes. This one is next. You ready?
Yep.
Here we go. A little tricky here.
Mm-hmm. Can you play it again?
Yep, and I have a longer version if you need that.
That's me and my brother together, I think.
It is.
Yeah, it's a Shadows tune.
Yep. The Savage.
The Savage, that's it, yeah.
Woodsong's Old Time Radio Hour. That's when that was.
All right. I had never heard that, so I knew I was playing an A, an A chord, and strumming that.
Yeah, just judging by your guitar playing, it seems like your inclination, this is just me analyzing, it seems like you're inclined to learn at least the bass and rhythm guitar parts simultaneously, like the bass guitar and rhythm guitar, which I think is a testament to how important ear training is. And like, people don't want to hear us tell them like, oh, back when we were learning guitar, there was no YouTube to see where to put your fingers. And obviously I think YouTube is a revelation and wonderful, you know, for learning, and we can do things like this with technology. But I always try to encourage people to exercise their ears when they can and kind of put that restriction on themselves. Would you agree that's maybe like the most important part of guitar playing, is having that strong ear?
Well, I can't understand anybody who doesn't want to have an ear for music. You know, how can you not recognize A? You know, da. Now go back a fret. Da, that's A flat. G, F sharp, F, E, A.
Do you have relative pitch or perfect pitch?
Yeah, I have relative pitch.
So you have that tone. You can kind of hear where the A is, and maybe when you hear another note, you're like, all right, where is that from A? You can kind of figure it out that way.
Well, for instance, the Beatles version, the original version of Yesterday, is in the key of F. So yesterday, when you hear it, you know, that's F. That's E. F sharp, G, A, B flat. You know.
Yeah.
I could do it if I had a throat.
It sounds beautiful.
Yeah, right.
All right, here we go. Last group of notes. You ready? This is a tough one. This might be a tough one. It might be the easiest one. It's quick. Ready? Here we go.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Very nice. You went 5 for 5.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. So you've described playing guitar on stage, and that's from a live cut of you playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You've described playing guitar on stage as the greatest drug you know. And I know that this past year has probably been hard to deal with for somebody like you who lives on stage almost. And I'm optimistic we're through the worst of it. You know, things seem to be trending the right direction. So with that in mind, can you tell me about a time, you know, on stage that you maybe haven't shared before that particularly stands out in your memory?
You bet. It was in Russia, and some people came to the side of the stage with a massive big red heart with "We Love You" on it, and they put it on a stand, and then they went and took their seats, and it was just so moving to me that they went to all that trouble, you know. And I had a great time there when I was in Russia. People are amazing, they really are. And Poland is the same. I've got too many good memories. I can't remember them all, but you know, touring to me is the happiness business. You know, I play and you get happy, and that's a great job. And I'm grateful to my maker every day that he made me a musician and someone who wants to play for people.
You're one of the few guitar players I've ever heard that, and I'm sure you've heard this before, people tell you this, but when you play, I just like smile and laugh.
Yeah.
And that's a rare quality.
You know, it's not about trying to watch my technique.
Right.
My technique should be invisible. You know, it's about the music. It's always about the song. And when people say, you know, what are you looking for or whatever, there's only one thing I'm looking for, and that is to play well. Because if I play well, I'll please myself, and I'm pretty sure you'll be pleased too. So, it's all about showing up, dress up, show up, and do your best. And I always do that. And I remember there was a great tennis player named Ivan Lendl who won Wimbledon many times back in the 80s. And the journalist said to him, "What was your most humiliating time on the court?" And he said, "I've never been humiliated because I always gave my best effort. And some days I just didn't come up to where I should, and sometimes I did it." So the answer to that is because I always gave my best effort. And that's how it works for me. I do my best and hope that, the mojo will show up and the magic will happen and I'll be flying my kite. And there are other days where, if you're just not in the zone and it's like everything's a chore, then you better have some good songs to play because that's what's going to get you through.
Yeah, well, you have plenty to choose from on that front. I really love how effortless and like how much fun it looks like you're having.
Absolutely.
And your technique's unbelievable, and you're such a musical player. But one of my favorite parts about you is actually like your songwriting specifically. Yeah. I feel like sometimes that can go overlooked. Maybe when guitar players are talking to you, they want to know about some things beyond what they are able to play, but the songwriting is just so difficult to be proficient at, and I think that's really an underrated part of what you do.
Well, you're very right about that. That's for sure, brother. Writing songs is the hardest thing. It's easy to write something with a lot of notes and a lot of changes, and I can probably write you something right now, but it wouldn't have any meaning, and to tell a story and to take the listener somewhere musically without words is something that I've been working on all my life. And that's why I don't write a song every day, because I'm not always that inspired. I've got other things that I'm doing, but I write when I'm inspired.
One of my favorite songs of yours is called "The Mystery," and I just love the way the verses have this chromatic descent that doesn't feel chromatic necessarily because of the way you lead the voicing. It's like the mysterious version of Blackbird, which is like my favorite Beatles song.
Right. It's a beautiful song, Blackbird. If you listen to the Mystery, I had been listening to Alison Krauss and Union Station, their album, "Let Me Touch You for a While," or something like that song and that album. And I was very influenced by them. I was getting over a divorce that was difficult, and I had met a young lady that I was very taken by, and I had made up my mind that I was going to contact her. And so I was emotionally in a good place.
Right.
And that's where the song came from. So
wow.
It's also in the G6 tuning.
Oh, cool. You use a lot of different tunings? I know you mentioned a couple drop tunings. And
yeah, I don't use as many as people like, Vicky Genfen or Annie McKee. Or those, they use DADGAD a lot.
Yeah.
I don't play anything in DADGAD. It totally confuses me. So I just use normal tunings, or I tune down to get that. And a lot of people think I'm using unusual tunings, but I'm not. It's just the way I play it and write. Well, it makes it sound like it's an open tuning.
Isn't it so interesting how just tuning down a whole step can almost transform your playing in a way because of the way it
changes everything. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Me too.
You're really proficient at guitar, but what I also appreciate about you in videos I've watched over the years, and as an educator myself, is your knack for explaining things and teaching. Do you have a secret background as a guitar instructor, or does that just come naturally to you? Because not every great player is a great teacher, so it's something that I notice a lot.
sometimes it's hard to explain some things that I do because, you know, where I grew up, what I was listening to, what I care about, all my instincts, and all that stuff. We're all different, you know. Could you grab me a water? Thanks. Thank you. Just getting some water for my throat.
No worries.
Yeah, and so, thank you, brother. When I write, I never think like I'm just writing a song for me to play on the guitar. I think I'm writing for a singer and a band.
Yeah, that's definitely an element of your playing that is unique to your playing style, because you're almost I don't know if you like this term, but one-man band definitely can be something you could fit the bill for if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I actually have an example of that I clipped out that I'd like to play for you, and then maybe you can use your teaching skills to explain what the heck is going on here. Ready?
All right. Yep. Okay. So
that was just you doing that.
Just me. Yeah. I play the brushes on the face of the guitar. I scratched it up with a screwdriver. I mashed it up, scratched all the front up. So when I rub my hands over it, it goes like that. Then I play the bass. I hammer the bass with my left hand. So I get those two going. And then I sing over the top of it.
A screwdriver. So did that give you any anxiety to take a screwdriver to your beloved instrument, or is it just a tool to you? You don't care?
Then it became useful.
That's a good way to think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's just a guitar. It's a piece of wood.
That's the ultimate.
I do love that guitar, and I miss it. You know, I get it back tomorrow. It's just been refretted because I wore those frets out the last 3 years.
Right on. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I love when my guitars go to the spa. That's what I say.
Guitar spa.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
All right, cool, man. Well, we have a few questions that I like to ask all the guests here as we wind down. What is something that you've learned most recently? Doesn't have to be guitar related. It can have to do with anything.
Yeah, I've learned that I'm not in charge, that I have to surrender my will because, you know, there's a power greater than me in the universe, and it's running the show, not me.
I think we've all learned that recently.
Yeah.
What is the hardest thing and the easiest thing about the guitar?
Well, the guitar fits in anywhere. You can play any kind of music with the guitar. You can give people a good time just sitting playing a few tunes. But it is challenging, and you have to keep working at it. If you get lazy, you'll pay the price, because you won't be able to play what you normally play, and you'll have to really push yourself, and then you won't feel good about where you're at. So even if you're not working, you still got to put in some serious time with the instrument if you want to be any good. It takes a lifetime to get good at anything, any instrument.
Great advice. What are you working on right now that you'd like to tell potentially 1 million people?
I've got some recording to do with Rob Ikes and Trey Hensley. We've got some songs we want to record. And my friend Richard Smith, who lives here in Nashville, who's actually originally from England, him and I are going to record some songs as well. So that's my next 2 recording projects. And I have a movie coming out. I don't know exactly when they're going to release it, but I did with a co-writer, I did the soundtrack to a new film called Tiger Rising, and I wrote it all on my iPhone and just kept it in voice memos, and I would write the piece and put it with the film, see that it all worked. Then I'd just text it to Don Harper in Los Angeles, and he would orchestrate it and all that. And last month, I had 2 days in the studio, and I recorded all the guitar parts for the whole film. And then the third day, we went into Ocean Way Studios here, which is a big church, and we recorded the 22-piece string orchestra and overdubbed them over the top, and so we got the whole film done in 3 days.
Unbelievable. That's not easy to do. I mean, studio sessions,
you got a lot of work.
You got to have all your ducks in a row for something to move that quickly.
But it was great actually, it was great that we had this lockdown situation with COVID-19, because I had to stay indoors and work on my film. So it worked in a good way. It actually helped me out by taking all the pressure of traveling and all that stuff. Got rid of all that, and I just concentrated on the film, and so I got it all done.
Tiger Rising. Can't wait to hear what happens next with that.
Got Dennis Quaid, Queen Latifah. It's a great cast, and the two main actors are kids, 10-year-old kids, a girl and a boy, and they're really good.
I'll call you Tommy Hollywood now. We're good.
I was on a blues cruise, me and Buddy Guy and Joe Bonamassa. We were doing this blues cruise, and I played a solo show, and a lady came up to me, and she looked a little bit familiar, and I kind of thought I knew her face. And she said, "Oh, your music's great," and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to send some songs to my brother because he makes movies. And it was Steven Spielberg's sister.
I've heard of him. That's a very serendipitous.
Yeah, she was real nice.
Great. A couple more questions for you. What is your favorite airplane album? What's your favorite thing to listen to flying on an airplane?
I usually like, I'll play the country music one or the rock and roll. Like if they've got onboard music already, I'll go through and find what they have. And they may have R&B, they may have jazz, country, bluegrass. I'll kind of swap around until I find what I like.
Cool. Build a band. What 4 others in a band, living or dead, would you want to play with? So it's a 5-person band. You're on guitar. Who are the 4 other members?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Abraham Laboriel on bass.
Okay.
Stevie Wonder on keyboards. Steve Gadd on drums. And Alex Acuna on percussion.
Wow, what a band. These are, I love asking people these bands. They always turn out to be amazing bands. All right. Finally, to loop in your guitar supervillain alter ego, I have one final question for you. What do you believe about the guitar that most guitar players would think is crazy? This could be like a hard truth guitar players need to hear, or something that others don't, or a misconception about the instrument, or whatever you want.
I think people, especially guitar players, they think too much about the fact that you've got to play with a band, you've got to have the power of a band. I believe that I can change the world by the way I play music, and I believe that just the fact that I'm playing an acoustic guitar doesn't mean that it's not powerful. You've got to think I've got something good to say to my homies, my brothers and sisters out there.
Yeah.
I got something good to say to you. Here it is. And I just believe in that. I don't believe that I have to be compared to other people. I don't believe that people are missing the bass player and the drummer and all that. When I play on my own, it's just, you feel everything, and that's how it should be. And you just do your best. And, really what really counts the most is the quality and integrity of what you do, and that you put 100% of your honest effort into it. It's like the truth. You can't resist it.
Very wise words. So, Tommy, as we wind down here, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be on Guitar Villains.
It was great fun to talk about some different stuff, too, so I appreciate that.
Of course, it's been an honor to talk to you. We'll look forward to seeing what treacherous plots you devise next in your musical endeavors.